Hi there, my name is Julie Fei-Fan Balzer, and today we're going to make a fabulous snowflake banner. Every snowflake is unique, and let's make some that are uniquely you. Now, making a snowflake banner out of all hand-cut snowflakes would take forever, so that's where the ScanNCut is going to come in. So let me show you. First, we're going to start by hand cutting. Now, what I'm going to do is I have just a regular piece of copy paper, and I'm going to go ahead and fold it in half. And then I'm going to fold it again in half so that I have a kind of rectangle shape. Now the reason I'm using copy paper is we're going to fold it so many times that I really need something thin, because cutting out of a heavy decorative paper would be really hard. Now this is the folded corner, and that's really important because what we're going to do is we're going to fold it now into thirds. Now does this have to be exact? Come on. It's handmade, it's beautiful, it's by you. It doesn't have to be exact. I'm going to fold in the other side so that it is approximately in thirds. If it's a little off, you know what? We're just going to live with it, which is fine. So now I have this kind of cone shape, and I want to cut off the excess that I have here. So I want to do it in a decorative way though. So I'm going to use my scissors and cut a kind of zigzag, and that's going to be the outside edge of my snowflake. And if I want to make it a little bit fancier, I can create a gouge out or something like that so that the edge of my snowflake is going to be really, really cool. Now, looking at this little cone shape that I have here, this tip is going to be the inside of my snowflake. So depending on how decorative you want it to be, that's how fancy you're going to get when you cut that part of it. But that is going to be the inside of it. Okay, now here's the really important part. In order for my snowflake to hold together, I need to only cut into these edges, and that's all the part that's in the middle of the snowflake. If I cut too much, the snowflake is going to fall apart, which I don't want. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting my snowflake, and I will meet you over at the ScanNCut. So I have my beautiful snowflake and I have my scanning mat, but there's a problem, which is this is white on white and the machine's never going to be able to detect it. So there's an easy solution, which is I'm going to take a piece of black cardstock, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up the film on here. And this is not a sticky film. This is just a film that keeps everything in place because this mat is not sticky, the scanning mat. So now this is under here. So guess what that means? It means that my snowflake, when it goes in, is going to perfectly be able to be seen. So now I'm going to go ahead, open the dust cover, do the double bump to load my scanning mat in, press the load button. Hit scan, we're going to choose the center option, scan to cut data, and press start, and the machine is just going to pull that in and scan it. So I have several scanning options here. I'm going to choose the center one, which is inline and outline. That's really important. You can see my beautiful snowflake is there. And to get the cleanest scan possible, I am going to drag in these red arrows on either side to make sure that I'm nice and tight against my image. Then I'm going to hit this little shader button here, and where it says delete size, I'm going to go ahead and reduce any margin area that I might have so I get the tightest scan possible of my design. And I can use the zoom in tool to take a peek at how it looks, okay? And then once I'm satisfied, I'm going to say okay, okay again. I want to save it. I'm going to save it right into the machine, and it'll give me the two options, machine or USB, and machine. And then it's going to tell me exactly what it's saving it as, and that is going to be number 32. And I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm ready to hit the home button because we are ready to do some editing. So into the pattern choice here, I go to save data, and we just saved that. And I know it's the last one here, number 32. There it is. Okay. Now here's the thing. If you look, let's go into the editing function so you can see this. See that little red box? Because all these little pieces are individual pieces. Well, that's going to make it really hard to resize. Now, I'm just using these buttons that are helping me go over the whole piece. And this is another great way also that if there are any stray marks, you can discover them. Because sometimes I'll find that there's a little something that's outside the area, and it'll get a red box like that. I don't want that to cut. Let's zoom in so you can see. That's not something I ever would have seen. I don't want that to cut. So once it's been selected, I just hit delete, which is the little trash can, hit OK, and it's gone. And then I continue with my arrow buttons to go through and make sure that everything that the ScanNCut is going to cut is actually a piece that I want to have cut out of here. So it takes a little bit of time, but I do think it's worth the time because I think it's one of those things like that little mark there. I don't want that to cut. Okay, and again, anything you're unsure about, just zoom in to see what it is. That, again, looks like a little stray mark. And if you take the time, as I was saying, to clean up your image, then I think you get the best possible cut and one that you're always happy with. As opposed to sometimes, you know, you're in a rush, so you go fast, and then it just isn't quite what you wanted. So once I've cycled through everything and I feel like I've seen the whole piece, then I want to unite all the pieces. So I'm going to go up to the 3 red squares. I'm going to select my whole canvas, that's select all. Hit OK, and then I want to unite them, which is this little icon down here. I'm just going to say OK to unify patterns irreversible. I'm going to say OK, OK again, and I want to make sure to save this. That's important, so I have it for later. And I'm also going to save it into the machine again, and I want to overwrite it so that it's the same file, and I'll never have all those little pieces again to have to worry about, which is great. Now I'm ready to resize this so that we can make our snowflake banner. So I don't want a snowflake quite that big in my banner. I feel like it would be a lot better if it were smaller. So why don't we, 5.15 seems about right, but I want 4 of them. So I'm increasing the number to 4. I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm just going to go ahead and drag them so that they're spread out over my mat. Now, I'm never one to waste paper, and you can see that we have a couple little extra spaces in here. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to hit Add. I'm going to go into the built-in designs in the machine, and then right here you can see there are a couple existing snowflakes. So that's super fun. So I'm going to choose one of the snowflake designs, but I want these to be a little bit smaller. So let's make it pretty small and see how it looks when it's all together. So we're just going to start with 1 and see how it goes. There you go. So now I can see that I can easily add these into my banner, right? Because I can put them in any of the empty areas. So in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize this so it's a little bit smaller. I'm going to make 2, let's make 4 of them for the 4 corners. Because again, I think when you're cutting, you might as well maximize your area and not run out of any space or waste any paper. I'm big on that. And I love that ScanNCut makes it easy for me to do that. And of course, you can do tiny adjustments with the little arrow buttons, like so. Okay, and I think I'm going to add one more big one right in the center. So let's make that one, oh, I don't know. That seems about, oops, actually, you know what? Let me X on out of here because I want to make one. Let's make 2 of them. Here you go. And because I only want to resize this one, and that was going to resize both of them, which is not something I want. So there you go. And now one big one. There you go. And I can zoom in and take a peek and make sure nothing's overlapping. Everything looks good. All I have to do now is load my material onto the mat, scan it in, and we'll be ready to cut. So I'm going to unload the scanning mat. And I'm going to go ahead and load in a mat on which I put some pretty pattern paper. And I did use double-sided paper because this is a banner, and I know that both sides are going to be seen. Now, I want to scan in my paper, even though it's 12 by 12, just to make sure that there's nothing that's hanging over the edges so I don't end up with anything unexpected. So here's my scan, and I can go in now, and if I want to zoom in, and I can take a peek and make sure that everything is fitting on there just perfectly. And it looks like it is, but maybe this snowflake I might just nudge a teeny bit down and a teeny bit in. There we go. Okay, so everything is set. It's perfect. It's just how I want it. I'm going to hit OK. I have my blade set to a 5, and I am going to get ready to cut these snowflakes out. Now that it's finished cutting, I'm going to unload the mat, close the dust cover up, and I'm ready to peel off the paper so that we can see our fabulous snowflakes. Aha, look how good. So these are the ones that were from the built-ins from the machine, and again, that double-sided paper. And then these are the ones that are based on my hand-cut design. And you've got to be a little bit careful when you have all these tiny intricate cuts. Of course, you don't want to rip it. You can also use the spatula tool to help you pull it up. But there you go, coming off the mat. And if you have any of these little pieces left, just take a moment or two, just pull them out. They come out pretty easily. And also, I just want to mention, we're also going to save the centers of these hand-cut snowflakes because they'll be great to stitch into our snowflake banner. So here is the snowflake that we cut by hand, and here is one of the ones that we cut out with the machine. And you can see we were able to change the size and everything. We're able to make many of them, which is super easy. And one of the things I did, because I wanted my banner to have a lot of variety, is I actually cut some other snowflakes out of paper again, so I would have several unique designs. And I also cut those ones, as you guessed it, right out of some patterned paper, along with some of the built-in snowflakes from the machine. So now that I have this big, huge pile of snowflakes, it's snowing all over, I am ready to go to my sewing machine and turn it all into a banner. So I'm here at my sewing machine and I've got my snowflakes, and what I'm going to do is I'm just working with a regular straight stitch. I'm going to put it into the machine, put the foot down, and I'm going to go ahead and stitch right across my first snowflake. Now, when I finish stitching across it, I'm going to do something that you might think is a little bit scary, which is I'm going to let the machine actually stitch with nothing under it for a couple of stitches. And then I'm going to add in the next snowflake. And I'm simply going to feed it in. And I'm going to continue this process of, stitching through a couple of nothings and adding in the next snowflake until I have created a huge, beautiful banner. Now you don't have to use up all of your snowflakes, but when you feel like your banner is long enough for you, go ahead, stitch a couple extra stitches, raise your foot up, pull the thread, use the thread cutter on your machine to cut it, and then voila, look how you've got this fabulous snowflake banner to decorate your home or do whatever you need for the holidays. Easy peasy and totally and completely uniquely you. For more tips, tricks, tutorials, and projects, please visit my blog at balzerdesigns.typepad.com and be sure to check out the ScanNCut website at scanNCut.com.